One of the loudest things that I hear on a normal basis, even if the words are not spoken, is conform. I am not like everybody else. And with that, I do get that I'm going to isolate myself a lot of times. And even though I may not like it, I guess, people say, well, you just need to fit in. And that's not to my liking. I'm like, man, I cannot sacrifice liking me to be liked by people. I can't do that. I did that in my youth. And, I'm like, suicide was on my brain all the time because I did not like me. Though people claim to be liking me or whatever, people, they walked over me. I was the silent dude. I didn't talk much. And, yeah, I had to conform in that aspect, because if I didn't speak out, people wouldn't stop doing things to me, taking advantage of me, harming me. A lot of times people say, well, you always on Facebook talking about what happened in the past. And I'm like, well, you're getting some insight of who I am. And I use Facebook as a blog, even YouTube as a blog. And I look back at the memories for myself to see where I'm at. But again, they said, well, you just need to conform. My brother jokes with me on that, Davis, and I'm like, and he's like, just comply. And he laughs at it because he knows that's not me. But it's like, man, the way I look at things and the way I do things is not like how everybody else does it. And a lot of times I'm doing what people say. They say, well, I just want people to tell me how they really feel. So when I tell people how I really feel, oh man, why'd you say that to somebody? Nobody else would say that. They would just keep that thought to themselves. And I'm like, well, you just said you wanted somebody to tell you how they really feel. And I'm like, me telling you how I really feel is a level of respect for that, a level of love in that. I'm like, because if I didn't care for you or whatever, I'd just be like, and just ignore you. But me actually telling you is it's like I would rather talk to you rather than talk about you. Some people can't deal with that. I guess people say, they don't be worried about, what somebody say about them. I'm like, I done had some horrible things said about me, so I'm not gonna lie and say it doesn't bother me. It bothers me when people say stuff, especially lies. If somebody said, oh, well, he be stealing, and you don't. So now people be clutching their purse or whatever. I don't see how people feel comfortable with that. If somebody say, oh, you can't trust your woman around him, how do you feel comfortable with that? If these things aren't true, oh, don't leave your children around him, and it's like, huh? I'm not a threat to children. I have my own children. But if somebody lies and says stuff like this, how do you just adjust to that? If somebody say, oh, you know, he's shisty, I wouldn't even get in the car with him. Oh, I wouldn't eat his food, or stuff like that. It's like, and they're not saying it to you, but they saying it about you, and you wonder why people pull away and do certain things. And it's like, man, you could be the most secure person, I believe, and somebody can tap into insecurity or make you feel insecure. But people say, oh, can't nobody make you feel nothing. And I'm like, no, sticks and stones break my bones. And I'm like, so you saying words don't mean nothing. So why does the Most High consider lies an abomination? Out of one of his seven, the worst sins or whatever, that's one of them. And it's like, okay, so you okay with somebody saying something to you about about you, I should say, not to you, that scars your reputation. People can see if they're around you some consistency on certain things. I'm not one to talk behind people back. I say stuff to their face, but still there are people that say, well, I heard you was talking behind my back. And I'm like, what did I say? Well, they said you said that. I'm like, well, was that something I said to your face? Yeah, but so if I said it to your face, I'm not really talking behind your back. I said you knew I said that. Now, if it's something that, just foreign or whatever, I'm like, I didn't say that. And see, people that carry stuff, a lot of times they will lie and blame stuff on people because they know that the person will never go verify. I don't vouch for people that easy. If I vouch for you, I believe you're solid. I'm not one that has been vouched for many times, so I'm like, I'm cool with that because I know how solid I am. I know how consistent. One thing about it, people will play me in certain areas and try to play on that. And I'm like, come on. Oh, man, he don't show up I'm like, okay. Anytime you called, I was there. And like one thing that people, that call my phone, man, you usually answer on the first, the first time. I usually, you'll tell me that you'll call back, but I ain't never went to your voicemail. Majority of the time, I'm answering my phone. If I tell a person I'm calling them back, what I do, call them back. I get a lot of folks that say, I'm gonna call you back, and they never do. When I say something, my word is my bond. So I tell people flat out no. Or I say, let me get back with you. And what do? I get back with them. I don't tell people I'm gonna pray for them no more, and later or whatever. Because what? When I say I'm gonna pray for a person, I start praying for them right then. And a lot of people aren't even comfortable with that. They don't like being prayed for live action. But that's my thing. I don't want to put it to the table, and say I'll come back to it and forget it. Because I know I'm very likely to forget some things. So if I say it, I try to do it right then so I don't forget. It's a many times like I do business and stuff like that. When people send me money, I try to get their stuff back ASAP. But, I stopped making stuff ahead of time for people because what? I didn't end up left behind because people say they're going to buy stuff. I make it and they never pay for it. I'm a man of my word. If I tell you something, I mean to do it. I don't say stuff lightly. I don't say stuff that, my word means something to me. My integrity means something to me. I'm not going to make a promise to you on something that I can't dang near guarantee gonna happen. That's not me. I don't work like that. And I cannot just conform. I cannot go along to get along. That is not me. I'm not gonna, be around folks that, just tolerate me. When I notice that, I gotta be out of there. I can love you all I want to love you, but if you don't love me, I can't stay in that situation. I can't do it. That don't work for me. I'm one that's going to actually ask you what's going on here. I have several friends. I've told them, look, this situation has me insecure, and I don't like how this feels. Is this how it is? And I done asked them straight up. And if they confide in me that no, that's not how it is, I take their word for it. But I still pay attention to their actions. I try to take people for their word. But if your actions consistently show me different, after a while, I gotta believe your actions. All right, can't conform. Time to get ready for work because I'm one that likes to be on time. I have almost always had perfect attendance. Ask anybody that worked with me. Almost always on time. Ask anybody who's ever worked with me. I'm timely. And that in itself, I'm not like most, I don't have CP time in me. And that bothers a lot of my people too. Because they work on CP time. So they like, this Negro. But all right, shalom.